Hello guys, it's Tucker. Um, so I was turned on to the not turned on. I was put on to this video by a video that I was watching from JJ McCullough's channel. I think he's a pretty entertaining YouTuber, and he was playing this Canadian propaganda video. Basically, what it is the official Canadian tourism um, advocacy group uh, made a video hyping up how awesome Canada is, and it's called Canada Nice because they wanted to highlight their niceness that they're known for. Um, and it had one moment in particular that triggered me very much. It was claiming that basketball was totally Canadian. And I will debunk that myth if it ever even was a myth, which it seems like Canada is kind of clinging on to this, even though like most people pretty much know that basketball is American. So I'm just gonna show you the video to at least give credit to Canada for trying. Good, you took your best stab at it, Canada, to entice people how fucking dope you are, and I don't know. I think that this moment in particular just made it backfire completely for me, as well as the song itself being a little meh. Let's check it out. I want to just do two videos on an iMovie. That'd be so much fucking better and easier and figure out how to splice it together. But apparently you can't take a QuickTime and put it on an iMovie. Can you record on iMovie by itself and then just use it? That's what I gotta figure out. Maybe I'm just being dumb, but like I could do this better. I know I could, but check it out. This works, obviously. It works, so peep this. Oh, it's backwards. Cameras are crazy, man.
Science, the environment, inventions, innovations like insulin, pacemakers, and basketball.
Nice is honoring our elders, educating for the future, acknowledging this land, respecting those who will always be here.
So that is literal Canadian propaganda for you. As JJ McCullough already diagnoses thoroughly. And he does a really good job with the video, but he didn't touch on this basketball subject, probably because that's not his like target audience. That's not his niche. They might not care about basketball, but oh boy, do I certainly care about basketball. So anyone who thinks that basketball is Canadian is wrong. Wholeheartedly, factually, point blank, you're wrong. If you want to say that the inventor of basketball was Canadian, you are correct. But the first, he moved. Okay, so James Naismith was from Canada, from Ontario, and was living in Montreal, and then got a job in Springfield, Massachusetts, as a physical education instructor when he was about 30 years old, and he moved out there. And then he got married in Springfield, Massachusetts, and he stayed in the United States for the rest of his life until he died age 78. So he lived about 30 years in Canada, about 48 years in the United States. So he was thoroughly Canadian before coming here, of course. Although back in those days, because we were kind of popping and Canada wasn't, there was a lot of people from Canada who came to the United States. My paternal great grandmother was, I guess, a double paternal great grandmother was from Nova Scotia and moved to Boston. So obviously, Canadians moving to Massachusetts was not an uncommon thing back then. Then James Naismith invented basketball in 1891. He was tasked with inventing this new game for dudes to play indoors during the winter months, and they wouldn't like get too it wouldn't be too rough, and also like Yeah, it would be, keep them physically fit and everything because he was a physical education teacher. And he was actually, seems like he was pretty passionate about his career because he pursued teaching more than he pursued actually being like a big basketball rep or hype man. So, James Naismith was about his craft and just happened to invent an amazing sport. But the thing is, the sport he invented wasn't even the sport we love today. And I'll get into that. I gotta, whatever. So, you gotta remember, when James Naismith invented basketball in 1891, there was no dribbling. You had to pass the ball only. So once you caught it, you stood still and you had to figure out how to get it to someone else who could then get it into the peach basket, which was the origin of the hoop and why they call it basketball. So this game was extremely slow. So I got some stories for you off the internet. So when James Naismith first invented basketball, after the very first game, this dude came up to him, Frank Mahan, and he approached Naismith. He was one of the players. And in 1892, asking him like what he was going to call the new game. And James Naismith said that he hadn't really come up with a name. Mahan suggested at first that he call it Naismith ball. But then Naismith laughed that off, thought it'd be trash. So then he said, let's call it basketball. The first game, the first dude that suggested the name of basketball, Naismith didn't say that, sorry. Frank Mahan said, let's call it basketball. And then Naismith was like, yeah, that's a pretty good name. So the dude that came up with the name for basketball was American, okay? The first official game was played in Albany, New York in 1892 with 9 players, which is whack. That's a travesty. See, it wasn't even all figured out back then. But and the game ended at 1-0 because there was no dribbling, so it was really hard to score. You could imagine how that'd be really hard to score. The only shot made for the 1-0 game, apparently it wasn't 2 back then for some reason. The only shot made was from 25 feet, which would be an NBA three-pointer to this day. So that's kind of just like ridiculous. And yeah, so the first players of basketball were American. The people who suggested the name were American. And the first, 3-point shot obviously was by an American. But not only that, but dribbling wasn't invented. And when it was later introduced in 1897, it was introduced or suggested to Naismith. First it was adopted just by people that wanted to do it. And then later they told him about it and he was like, yeah, I like that. And that was in 1897 and that was by Americans. So pretty much this Canadian dude came to the United States and made up, the skeleton of a decent game. And then, but not a great game. And then Americans came up with the rest and gave it a name. Because think about basketball today if there was no dribbling. Actually, it'd be pretty boof. My paternal grandma used to grow up when girls basketball still played without dribbling and you had to pass it and their key was still shaped like a key and everything. And it's like, it sounded like it was just pretty whack. And then, she was like a coach and was a coach during the changes when they just brought girls basketball up to speed with normal basketball at that time, decades ago at this point. And obviously, and basketball became, it already was what it was today, but it became that for women as well as part of the Title IX stuff. And that's fantastic because basketball without dribbling would be pointless. It would half the fun is dribbling. How could you play one-on-one without dribbling? It's ridiculous. So basketball is not Canadian in any way, shape, or form. James Naismith went on to be the coach of Kansas. I don't know when he became the coach of Kansas. Let me check that out. Um. Okay, so yeah, I don't know. It does. Well, I'm trying to figure out when he became the coach. Yeah, I can't find it. However, um, I can find that the first college basketball game played was in Geneva College of Pennsylvania, 1893, and then Vanderbilt played February 7th, 1893, against a school in Nashville, and then uh, Hamlin in Minnesota and also Minnesota A&M uh, played a game, and that was the apparently the first match between two universities. And then um, I couldn't find any numbers on when Canadian college basketball teams or college universities adopted basketball. The Canadian, get this, the Canadian freaking uh, college basketball league, the NC2A of Canada, is called U Sports. That's trip. I don't know. Is it cool? Is it dumb? Is it corny? Like, is it just like weird? I don't know. That's crazy. It reminds me of like the XFL, honestly. Like, U Sports, Canadian college athletes. Like, that sounds way worse than NC2A, honestly. It sounds more like UFC. So, think what you will of that. But I couldn't find numbers on when they started playing basketball. However, these American colleges obviously did it ahead of time and outpaced them. And even the best college basketball players or even the best, Canadian basketball players of all time have gone to college in the United States, obviously, to play in the NC2A, like Steve Nash, for instance. Um, Andrew Wiggins, he might have been drafted out of high school, right? Yeah, but like I'm trying to think who else is really great from. Steve Nash went to Santa Clara, and he was really good. You know, you got to give it to Steve Nash. Like, Canada can ball. They got some fantastic players. I think they have Corey Joseph as well in the NBA. Andrew Wiggins. Um, they got some ballers. There's probably more that I'm missing, but Steve Nash was definitely the best. However, he was born in South Africa, and moved to Canada when he was like 2. So I don't know, Canada. So I'm just saying, like, Canada doesn't hold a candle to the United States when it comes to basketball and basketball legacy or basketball playing. Just, you know what I mean? The development of the game. It's been an entirely American game, even if the founder of the game was a Canadian expat. But a dude that moved to the United States and stayed here for the rest of his life until he died in Loris, Kansas, after he had been coach of Kansas for a long time, um that is not a good story to rep Canada. Like, yeah, come to Canada, then you can grow up, move to the US, get married, have kids, start a sport, and get a degree at University of Denver, and then become a college basketball coach. Like, that's pretty much just selling the American dream if anybody actually read the story of basketball's origin or James Naismith's biography. So I don't understand how the Canadian freaking tourism agency can be trying to rep basketball as if it's this thing. There's another scene in the video, in that Canadian propaganda video, earlier in the video, when this chick is holding a basketball under her arm, and you know what? I don't buy it. It's so freaking cold in Canada, and she was wearing a scarf. She was wearing like a sweater and a scarf and like maybe leggings. You couldn't tell. They were cartoons in the video, if you forgot. But like, I doubt if you're in scarf weather that you're balling. Like, me and my roommate, we might be balling in scarf weather. You know, you can't even feel your hands, so it's like kind of pointless. But you know, it's whatever. So like, but I really doubt that people in Canada, like, we're in Oregon. It doesn't even snow in Oregon, like, hardly. You know what I mean? Only in the hills. But in Canada, I highly doubt people are out there every day just, oh, let's go play some basketball. That's why they play hockey. So just rep hockey, stick to hockey, make hockey like your fucking thing, and stop trying to steal basketball from America because it's just a fucking wannabe poser look, to be honest. Canadian government propaganda agency. That's what I gotta say to you. That's my message today. And I really don't think you should be trying to profiteer off of James Naismith, RIP, because not only did he move to the US and stay here the rest of his life, he didn't invent all the best parts of basketball, and he was never, Canadians were never the main players of basketball. So just chill out, man. Like, damn, stick to what you got and stop trying to just like jack our steez. Ugh, Canada. It is what it is, man. Hey, Tucker Chisholm, anti stagnation, baby. Chuck, chuck.